Mercedes-Benz EQS 580 4MATIC in Pinnacle trim. This car is a vehicle that many other reviewers are claiming is an electric S-Class, but in reality that's not entirely true. Yes, this is an executive Mercedes-Benz sedan, and yes, this car is supposed to be the pinnacle or showcase of what Mercedes as a brand can do with their technology and is a good demonstration of what the future holds for the brand. But in reality, what this car does as a vehicle is very different. The S-Class is that full-blown executive limousine. So let's talk about what's good. This is still an executive Mercedes product that is very expensive, which means the leather, the Alcantara, and many of the individual switchgear in this vehicle feel quite good, or at least look good appearance-wise. There is a good attention to detail when it comes to interior storage. This is a liftback, which means you have a hatchback for a trunk, or hatch area for a trunk. It's very large, which makes this car surprisingly practical. There's good interior storage as well. The front occupants have giant door cards. Underneath the center armrest, there's a cargo nook, which is very, very practical. And there is an overall good attention to detail when it comes to storage for your phones, water bottles, and other miscellaneous items. The front seats in this vehicle are brilliant. They are massaging, at least at this trim level. And while they do not offer all of the same massage functions that the S-Class does, they are still very, very comfortable, and they are heated and cooled and controlled by their digital switches on the door. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but for the most part, they work well. There's a wide range of adjustment when it comes to height in this car, so you can be a taller or shorter driver, at least in the front of the vehicle, and fit quite well. The screen technology. This vehicle has the Hyper Screen, as Mercedes calls it, which is 3 screens built into a piano black dash, which I'll talk about here in a second. But the screen tech itself works very, very well. The center gauge cluster, or your instrument display for the driver, is high quality. It has a ton of different customization options, which means you can pick the display you want and the information you want pretty easily. And regardless of who you are, you should find a screen that you're going to like. The center infotainment screen is running the most recent version of Mercedes-Benz infotainment software, and for the most part, it's fairly intuitive. It's going to take you a couple minutes to acclimate to it, but once you start using it, you realize that the display quality is very, very good. It's fast reacting, and the general menu structure is mostly logical. The third screen, which is for the passenger, is a neat gimmick like it is in most cars, but not necessary. It offers the passenger the ability to look at some sub-menus, infotainment options, and other things like that. The heads-up display in this car is top-notch. There's zero distortion, and it can be customized to your heart's content when it comes to the information that's being displayed to you. Some of the comfort and convenience features, like the massage functions, the experience modes, and all that other fun stuff, work very, very well. And because this car does not have a frunk and in its place is a giant HEPA filter, the ionizer, or the air purifier in this car, works brilliantly. It's something I actually did not think I would enjoy or necessarily need, but this being allergy season here in Illinois, I've had no problems when I've been in this car. It's actually been a huge relief. Let's talk about what's not so good. The styling is very polarizing. Yes, this is a very aerodynamic car. The styling was done to maximize its efficiency and is very functional, but not only is it not the prettiest thing on the exterior, at least to my eyes, it has compromised the rear headroom. There is a decent amount of legroom for the rear occupants. It's about E-Class size, but the headroom, if you're above 6 foot tall, you are not going to fit back there at all. And I don't think the rear seats, even with the executive rear seating package, which allows you to tilt the rear seats, are all that comfortable. The bottoms for your legs are rather short, and I think the seats themselves are a little bit hard. Because of the shape of this vehicle as well, even with the moonroof open, the panoramic sunroof fully open, there's not that much glass. The center dash area has a very sloped windshield, so there isn't that great front visibility. And the seating position, due to the large dash itself, you feel kind of like you're driving a school bus. This car has Mercedes' latest version of their safety suite, which means it has a very advanced lane keep assist. It has blind spot monitoring that shows up in the heads-up display, as well as gives you an audible alert. It does a very good job using adaptive cruise control, and it can also pair to the brake regen. So the regen in this car is controlled by the shift paddles, or the traditional shift paddles on the steering wheel. When you have the regen in intelligent mode, it will adjust based upon what the cameras are seeing to make the function or functionality of the brake regen feel almost like adaptive cruise control. It's very, very impressive. The safety suite in this car is advanced enough to show you when you're at an intersection. So it'll show up in the primary screen what's happening in the intersection. It'll tell you if you're coming up to an intersection in the heads-up display as well. There's a ton of information that's always being presented to you. And this is where it's also a con. If you are a technophobe, if you're someone like Mark, who does not like bright screens, who does not like all of this technology, it's very overwhelming. When you have the navigation up and you leave all the alerts up, you feel like Jack Lemmon in the China Syndrome. There are so many things happening all at once. You have 3D and 2D alerts happening in your heads-up display. You have a screen popping up over your general navigation, giving you three-dimensional arrows in the center screen. It is technology overload. To me, it is extraordinarily distracting because the center screen in this car controls everything. You find yourself constantly looking down at it. This hyperscreen as well is baked into a giant piano black slab. This car was delivered very clean a couple days ago, and after 2 or 3 days, it is littered with dust and fingerprints and detracts from the overall impressive vibe of the vehicle. And some of the bright work in this car, at least compared to something like a Porsche Taycan or something you should expect at this price point, doesn't feel that solid. It looks great, but when you actually touch it, you realize it's plastic chrome. But with that said, I think it's time for us to put this car up on the lift so we can walk you through what they did to this car from a platform perspective. Mark, we're underneath Mercedes-Benz's first dedicated EV car, and this is on their all-new dedicated EV architecture called EVA. This is a platform that, as Mercedes described in their presentation, is going to be highly modular, so they can stretch or shorten or widen this vehicle to their heart's content, or this platform, forgive me. And the electric motors front and rear can be changed depending on power output. This can be a rear drive, or it can be, in this vehicle, a 4MATIC or all-wheel drive car.
You mean it's the future?
It is the future. James Cameron and Alicia Keys showed me that this vehicle is going to take me to whatever James Cameron
It's
world
going
is
to
called.
take you to Avatar world, where the Nuang tribe, or what are they called? Doesn't matter.
Dances with wolves, but
Just
with blue
watch
people.
the movie. So you're going to save the future like James Cameron and Alicia Keys. But you know what? I'm feeling like I could hear a little song about this car, Jack.
What's going on? It's Alicia, and I'm so excited to be here with you today at this world premiere. It's a vibe. So I wanted to sing this song called Authors of Forever because I know that we create our forever. And that's what it feels like we're creating right now.
Well, Mark, that really touched me.
I'm feeling carbon neutral already. So let's talk about how this is carbon neutral in terms of technology. The body structure is advanced for the price point. You know, we're going to argue how much this thing costs.
$140,000.
How about weight? What are you getting for how much weight are we getting?
Well, you are getting a lot of weight for your money. That's how I like it. 5,800 pounds, slightly more than that, which makes this, in perspective, as heavy as a half-ton pickup truck.
And that's why it has a half-pound pickup truck front suspension with a sway bar that is enough to propel a Super Duty. Everything is aluminum. Your control arms, your knuckle, your upright, your upper A-arms, your lower links, your subframes, even in the back, everything is aluminum. This body is mostly aluminum, and this is where a huge part of that is going in this architecture, and you can tell it's been oversized to scale this out. So, but I'm not going to get into that really. We can make
multi-link front,
yep,
multi-link rear. It has, I guess it's called ADS Plus, or their Airmatic Suspension Plus. This is supposed to be somewhat like an S-Class. That's why they call it EQS. Dimensionally, as I talked about, it's more in line with an E-Class, but this is apparently the biggest interior volume for an electric sedan. Though this does not have all of the highly sophisticated road reading technology that the S-Class has. This car does not necessarily prioritize the ride quality like the S-Class can due to the weight.
Yeah, of course. Well, and adaptive dampers, like you said, and air springs, so it can lower itself down to also bolster its incredible aerodynamic numbers, or coefficient of drag numbers.
0.2, which is unbelievable. It's why this car looks the way it does. It was styled to be, they called their bow silhouette, and the front end of this vehicle is supposed to look like a bullet train.
Wow.
It just
And
blows me away.
It's like a combination of what looks like a Toyota Corolla and a VW CC combined. That's
I think it looks like when you go to the dinosaur museums
Yeah.
and you see the little like arthropods that were like fossils. Yeah, that's what it looks like to me.
So, who are we? We're not German engineers, so we don't know any better. Let's talk about the propulsion system, Jack.
So this 580 is dual motor. It makes over 500 horsepower and over 600 pounds of torque. The 0 to 60 in the sub 4s. And this car has a range of about 340 miles, which, to be fair, is pretty accurate. Even in our extreme heat, it's well over 90 degrees right now, and I haven't seen a extreme range drop off. If you get this in the rear motor, here in the US, according to Edmunds, you can get over 420 miles to a single charge. The battery packs are 107.8 kilowatts, which is huge. Do you want to walk me through the charging?
Yeah, so in terms of durability, there is some overhead in the battery. They oversize it, but the usable size is about 107. The pack is probably closer to like 110 kilowatt hours. So at 100,000 miles.
Or 10 years.
10 years, there's battery degradation, which will lower that down to 70% utilization. Every battery pack has degradation, so don't be alarmed by that. The big thing here is charging speed. That's what people want to know. How fast can you do it? Well, this has a peak of about 200 kilowatts or 207 kilowatts, but the average charging speed is at about 155 kilowatts, which is really good for the industry. The Ionic 5 and the EV6 are better or faster at charging, but you have a bigger capacity battery. So the long story short here, Jack, is if you're on a DC fast charger, you can charge this battery from about 20 to 80% and roughly 25 to 27 minutes, depending on conditions. And it maintains a high 155 kilowatt charging rate on that DC fast charger. However, if you're a normal person, like you're going to take it home at night, it's going to take between 11 and 12 hours to...
On a 220.
Yeah, on a 240.
Oh, sorry, 240.
Yeah, unless you're in another country. But here at a 240, it's...
The last thing I'm going to talk about very quickly is sound. We talked about it in the BMW i4. This car also has different sound modes that play sound when you're decelerating or accelerating. And it's supposed to sound like the future according to Mercedes. But Mark, are you ready to experience the future?
You can count on it, Jack.
EQS 580, Mark.
Let's get this over with, Jack. Dr. Touch up! What did they fucking steal the Transformers sound effect? God.
So first things first, Mark. This car is 0% sporty. Oh, no. I didn't mean to do
you
that.
gotta touch. Dr. Touch. And you didn't get your seminar training? Because we can't have a switch. We can't have a switch for anything. You gotta swipe fucking everything in this pile.
All right.
There we go. All right.
It is not sporty, but it is very fast. And I'm going to say this once. The electric drivetrain tuning of the motors, the throttle sensitivity is perfect. It does a really, really good job. This is the dual motor. The way this powertrain feels, or drivetrain, whatever you want to call it, it feels exactly like it should for a high-dollar luxury product. There's no weirdness. There's a ton of torque. It pulls hard. You have an unlimited passing power. But nothing about the suspension tuning of this car is sporty at all. What do you think? I mean, you've been in this now for a little while.
Yeah. Okay. Let me turn off the part of my brain that absolutely hates this thing. Like, I hate it. It's not even the tech stuff. I just think it's totally disposable. But if I'm going to turn that part off,
Yes.
the suspension is skewed towards like a couch-like luxury car experience. So if you like the old like 70s ride quality, when you put it in comfort, there is no body control. If you're going over a hill, you're like you're like flying all over the place, but it is soft. So again, a lot of manufacturers have gone this way of like everything's got to be soft, but then it gets crazy hard with the adaptive dampers. This thing's always soft. So pro or con, depending on who you are. The thing that I really you said the tuning of the electric motors and all that is good, which I agree with. The brake pedal, Jack, please walk me through what the hell is going on
So
here.
when you have regen braking on, which I'm about to turn on with the pedals, it will actually pull the brake pedal away from you when it's activating the brake regen, which means every single time you apply the brakes, depending on what regen is doing, the pedal is a different length away from you. So you have no muscle memory of exactly how much brake pressure you have to give the car. So there is no brake feedback, and on top of that, this car is super heavy. So you have zero confidence in the actual stopping capability of this vehicle, which, to say the least, is a little disconcerting in traffic.
Let me just tell you, I'm going to put it in the layman's terms, that feels like there's something wrong with the brakes on there. I know all the electronic things and what they're trying to do, but it feels like it's broken. For a normal person that doesn't get into like, oh, this is what they're doing with the programming and the actuator and all that geeky stuff that they did, it sucks.
Yeah, none of the inputs of this car, including the brakes, other than like the throttle pedal, have any sorts of like, I don't know, feedback. Nothing feels organic. The steering's way too fast. The rear steer does weird things. Yes, it has great maneuverability in parking lots, but it's not a car that instills you with a lot of confidence.
I think what they did here is, and I'd like to hear the people involved, it seems like there was an argument about, let's make it an S-Class, but no, it can't be an S-Class. Let's make it an EV, but the EV has to be different. So let's change everything that kind of works and make it weird. And that's what it feels like. All the front and the back, the interior, the exterior, the way that it drives, the normal inputs of driving are not really traditional. And that's what kind of drives me crazy about this.
What do you think about this as, forget the S-Class part. I talked about it in the interior segment, a little bit in the shop. This, honestly, other than the fact that it's a luxury Mercedes, has nothing to do with the S-Class. How does this function to you as a luxury vehicle?
I don't know. Like, so you told me the price, and we had this debate off camera. Like, if you're spending $140,000 on a car like this, I mean, like, I don't understand it. I don't understand what you're getting here. I mean, just because you throw screens on the dash like this, and you put the augmented reality crap, all the tech stuff, this doesn't feel like a $140,000 car to me. I don't know what they're doing here, other than like it's cool, that has any real value other than the ride quality. Yes. It's quiet, it's fast, but every car is that way, Jack. I mean, every car, they're all saying, look how quiet it is. Look how fast it is. Okay, yeah, I get it. Every car is like that now. So what are they doing? What did they do here? Tell me. You got to sell me on this.
See, Mark, for once I've come to your perspective on on how you look at this car. I don't see the value in it. Like in an S-Class, yes, it is your nightmare of an interior space. Too many lights, too many screens.
But it's thought out.
Yes,
even
and
in
it
its
rides
insanity.
well.
Yeah,
yes,
right.
It is an exceptionally quiet car. It is a vehicle that you can get picked up in the airport, and you're like, man, I'm a baller.
Yeah,
like when you drive around in that Maybach, you're like, I could wipe out some small business today.
No, I know those cars make sense in that perspective. It's an S-Class. This doesn't feel the same way.
This car does not ride as well as an S-Class. It doesn't have some of the body control that the S-Class has. It's not as quiet. The only advantage this vehicle has is that it's an EV, which means the drivetrain is silent, and it kind of looks funky. Past that, I don't understand this car. I like some of the technology. I think, yes, the screens have been way overdone, but some of the software is good. The electric motors are very impressive, and it has real range. But at 140 grand, you're out of your mind.
I think they opened up a box of like automotive design magnet kits, and they're like, oh, big screen, throw the magnet on the wall. Piano black, throw the magnet on the wall. Voice assistant, throw that on the wall. Cool. It's like everything just feels slapped together here. Like they're just throwing things on the wall to see what sticks. And that's why this feels very first generation, very disposable to me, with not a lot of staying power. I think you'll see this get mature and they'll figure out what people want and don't want. But at this point, I can't get into it.
The one thing I will say over the Taycan, which we did do a video on, is the range of this vehicle is actually usable. It has over 300 miles of range, and even in 90-ish degree weather, I haven't run into any like range anxiety issues.
You know what else has 300 miles of range?
What?
Every car for the past 25 years. I mean, that's, to me, even that's becoming a tired excuse. Wow, it's got 300 miles range. Cool. Okay, my Honda Civic from 1997 had a 300 mile range. You know what I mean? Like, at what point do we stop making the excuse, well, okay, it's got a, that, I don't know, Jack, just get me out of this thing.
All right, let's head into the final thoughts. Future. Oh, man.
Oh, my God. What the f*** did they do with the sound? Final thoughts on the EQS. Now, keeping this in perspective, this is a first generation full-blown EV for Mercedes. From a technology perspective, it's incredible, at least the mechanical part. And there is some nauseating marketing that goes or is connected with this product that's just absolutely nonsensical. It's making it way more special and way bigger than it is. It's just a giant slab, again, of a first generation battery tech, first generation of change in screen and interior layout. And some of it works great, and some of it is just totally confusing and cumbersome. In terms of drivability, that's what you care about. The range is good and consistent, so is charging, right? That's what you care about. 10 years, they're claiming you're gonna have 70% of your battery capacity, which is also really good. And in 10 years, you're gonna have this in the garbage can probably, because nobody's gonna want a 300 mile range EV. But again, you have those reassurances that this is going to be scaled out and built well into the future. This platform underneath is going to be used on probably 5, at least 6 vehicles in the next 10 years. So what you're getting now is a good representation of what you're going to see in the future. And as battery tech improves, all of that, it's only going to get better. Now, in terms of usability, the interior space is, to me, and some of the features that you're getting here for this price point, I just don't get it. I really don't. I think a lot of the interior technology is vastly overcomplicated, way too in your face. They're trying way too hard. And when you look at all of the screens, essentially the entire dashboard is like a Best Buy showroom. It just screens everywhere. And there's a lot of redundancy in terms of information that's spread across all of them. It's crazy bright and crazy distracting. And these companies are going from one, like this understated luxury to this overstated like technology as luxury. And I don't think in terms of everything, it works great. I feel like they need to consolidate this down, take the technology that works and just make it less in your face. Go back to the basics a bit, use the technology when you need it and make it disappear when you don't. And that's not what this car is about. Other than that, I just kind of am interested to see where this goes in the future. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next video.